hadiah langsung.
Hadiah kejutan ya?
Kejutan ya. Sebenarnya kan itu hadiah langsung, tapi siapa cepat dia dapat gitu kan?
Iya.
Iya.
Okay.
Iya, hadiah langsung itu. Benar-benar. Karena kan kalau door prize kan diundi, kalau ini kan jebret siapa yang nyeken kan? Hadiah langsung, tapi siapa cepat? Kagak. Gue selalu 2 karena disuruh siaran dulu.
Soalnya kayaknya di satu itu cocoknya lu
Julita.
Iya cocoknya lu maksud gue soalnya kan ada
Julita bukannya lebih cocok lagi kalau yang kayak gitu. Julita lebih serius. Wah, terus gue komika.
Halo, selamat siang dengan Bapak Irfan. Ini oke. Halo, selamat siang dari perwakilan Garuda ya, Bapak Irfan. Belum respon? Belum respon? Bang, boleh bang? Iya. Halo, selamat siang dengan perwakilan Garuda.
Halo ya, selamat siang.
Oke, halo Bapak.
Ya,
Mohon izin, nanti pembicara di ruangan ini atau terpisah?
nanti terpisah Pak. Nanti kita akan di ruangan lain. Device-nya pun juga device yang berbeda. Kebetulan Bapak nanti akan pakai iPad.
Ya, memungkinkan nggak untuk kita positioning di ruangan Bapak?
Kebetulan ruangannya nanti di Kebon Sirih. Ini aku baru mau jalan ke Kebon Sirih sih. Gitu.
Oh, 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 berarti saya belum bisa
Belum,
positioning ke
belum
belum.
ya.
Ini
Ya,
kan kita
belum.
sudah mau in frame ya, sudah mau live ya.
Iya, iya, sebentar. Mungkin Bapak paling lambat join 13.15. Saya soalnya masih ada call lagi tadi.
Oke, coba nanti dimasak. Soalnya
around the world have been through several challenges. Some of them prevail and manage to conduct world-class business activities, while the rest are currently struggling with their day-to-day operations. We believe those could be enhanced through a solid system, a system so well-made and efficient to the level where the ordinary companies will grab an opportunity to implement world-class productivity system.
Through a system, we proudly name RUN System, Enterprise Resource Planning.
It's not only ERP, it's RUN System.
Realisasi pendapatan asli daerah terus meningkat sebelum pandemi sehingga meningkatkan kemandirian daerah, di mana 50,65% penduduk yang didominasi generasi milenial dan Gen Z adalah potensi yang sangat penting dioptimalkan untuk menyambut era Society 5.0. Pemerintah Kota Malang tak henti-hentinya terus menata dan mempercantik wajah bumi Arema. Salah satunya penataan kayu tangan sebagai ibu kota heritage Malang Raya.
Cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Bisa lah. Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini. Yuk buka tabungan BNI, cukup selfie. Dan aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking. Mulai bisa apa aja sekarang. Gak pakai nanti.
Kami berinvestasi dalam bidang infrastruktur, energi, dan properti untuk berkontribusi pada pembangunan bangsa. Lini bisnis konstruksi kami meliputi pembangunan gedung, pembangunan infrastruktur, pembangunan proyek EPC. Komitmen kami untuk selalu menyediakan berbagai layanan spesialis berkualitas tinggi, menjadi solusi untuk penyediaan kebutuhan produksi beton pracetak nasional, menyediakan penyewaan alat berat untuk mendukung kegiatan konstruksi. Apa yang kami lakukan hari ini akan berdampak pada hari esok, dan bagaimana kami dapat membantu untuk masa depan lebih baik dan berkelanjutan.
Cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Bisa lah. Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini. Yuk buka tabungan BNI, cukup selfie. Dan aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking. Mulai bisa apa aja sekarang. Gak pakai nanti.
Kapan kita harus mulai? Mari tanyakan jam Mas Iqbal.
Tunggu hari baik.
1 Januari 2112.
Kali.
Berani mulai investasi sekarang.
Invest saham atau reksadana
Di satu aplikasi ajaib.
gampang buat yang baru berani mulai.
Aman lagi. Bisa meroket kapan aja. Yuk, saatnya berani mulai investasi saham.
Dan reksadana.
Ajaib, berani maju.
Ajaib.
Selamat siang, selamat berjumpa kembali di Virtual Conference Indonesia Economic Outlook 2022. Dan hari ini di hari ketiga sesi kedua, kita akan kembali berbincang dan melakukan diskusi panel nanti dengan tema yang menarik tentunya. Namun sebelum ke puncak acara, ke diskusi panel, kita akan mengundi door prize terlebih dahulu. Baik para partisipan yang masih bergabung dengan kami siang ini, kita akan memberikan door prize dengan hadiah menarik. Ada e-wallet senilai Rp500.000 untuk 3 orang pemenang. Langsung saja kita akan undi siapakah pemenang yang beruntung hari ini. Baik, langsung saja kita start teman-teman. Oke, baik, stop. Kita lihat pemenang pertama Chris Bosono dengan mendapatkan e-wallet senilai Rp500.000. Baik, kita akan undi untuk pemenang kedua. Langsung saja start. Baik, kembali kita ingatkan ini ada door prize untuk 3 orang pemenang ya, para partisipan dan juga pemirsa yang sekarang ini masih bergabung kembali. Kita langsung undi e-wallet senilai Rp500.000. Kita mulai. Baik, stop. Siapakah pemenangnya? Feby Harmadirambe. Selamat kepada Feby Harmadirambe mendapatkan e-wallet Rp500.000. Baik, ini lanjut kita pemenang ketiga terakhir, kesempatan terakhir. Baik, langsung saja kita start teman-teman. Kita undi. Stop. Siapakah yang beruntung? Ilham Hanif Darmawan. Selamat kepada Ilham Hanif Darmawan, Rp500.000. Dan saya ingatkan untuk para pemenang, ketiga pemenang tadi, nanti akan diharapkan nanti bisa menghubungi kami di nomor WhatsApp di 0838 70 72 6000. Saya ulangi di nomor WhatsApp 0838 70 72 6000. Baik, kembali selamat kepada 3 pemenang dan jangan lupa di setiap sesi nanti, di sesi kita nanti akan muncul QR code. Nah, ini kita akan memberikan hadiah langsung, tapi siapa cepat dia dapat dengan sesegera mungkin men-scan QR code yang ada di layar monitor Anda. Nanti kita akan memberikan hadiah langsung, hadiah kejutannya berupa 1 unit handphone Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite untuk Anda. Baik, jangan kemana-mana, kita akan berjumpa lagi sesaat lagi di Virtual Conference Indonesia Economic Outlook 2002 sesi kedua nanti.
Cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa, kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Bisa lah.
Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini. Yuk, buka tabungan BNI, cukup selfie.
Dan aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking.
Mulai bisa apa aja sekarang.
Kapan kita harus mulai? Mari tanyakan Mas Iqbal.
Tunggu hari baik.
1 Januari 2112.
Kali.
Berani mulai investasi sekarang.
Invest saham atau reksadana
Di satu aplikasi ajaib.
gampang buat yang baru berani mulai.
Aman lagi. Bisa meroket kapan aja. Yuk, saatnya berani mulai investasi saham.
Dan reksadana.
Ajaib, berani maju.
Ajaib.
Hello, and welcome to our corporate video. Companies around the world have been through several challenges. Some of them prevail and manage to conduct world-class business activities, while the rest are currently struggling with their day-to-day operations. We believe those could be enhanced through a solid system, a system so well-made and efficient to the level where the ordinary companies will grab an opportunity to implement world-class productivity system.
Through a system, we proudly name RUN system, Enterprise Resource Planning.
It's not only ERP, it's RUN system.
Realisasi pendapatan asli daerah terus meningkat sebelum pandemi sehingga meningkatkan kemandirian daerah, di mana 50,65% penduduk yang didominasi generasi milenial dan Gen Z adalah potensi yang sangat penting dioptimalkan untuk menyambut era Society 5.0. Pemerintah Kota Malang tak henti-hentinya terus menata dan mempercantik wajah bumi Arema. Salah satunya penataan kayu tangan sebagai ibu kota heritage Malang Raya.
Cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Bisa lah. Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini.
Yuk, buka tabungan BNI, cukup selfie.
Dan
aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking.
mulai bisa apa aja sekarang.
Gak pakai nanti.
Kami berinvestasi dalam bidang infrastruktur, energi, dan properti untuk berkontribusi pada pembangunan bangsa. Lini bisnis konstruksi kami meliputi pembangunan gedung, pembangunan infrastruktur, pembangunan proyek EPC. Komitmen kami untuk selalu menyediakan berbagai layanan spesialis berkualitas tinggi, menjadi solusi untuk penyediaan kebutuhan produksi beton pracetak nasional, menyediakan penyewaan alat berat untuk mendukung kegiatan konstruksi. Apa yang kami lakukan hari ini akan berdampak pada hari esok, dan bagaimana kami dapat membantu untuk masa depan lebih baik dan berkelanjutan.
Cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Bisa lah. Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini.
Yuk, buka tabungan BNI, cukup selfie.
Dan
aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking.
mulai bisa apa aja sekarang.
Gak pakai nanti.
Kapan kita harus mulai? Mari tanyakan Mas Iqbal.
Tunggu hari baik.
1 Januari 2112.
Kali.
Berani mulai investasi sekarang.
Invest saham atau reksadana
Di satu aplikasi ajaib.
gampang buat yang baru berani mulai.
Aman lagi. Bisa meroket kapan aja. Yuk, saatnya berani mulai investasi saham.
Dan reksadana.
Ajaib, berani maju.
Cari.
Selamat siang, selamat bergabung kembali
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our virtual conference, Indonesia Economic Outlook Year 2022. Welcome to the second session, and our theme is National Transportation Development Acceleration. And this virtual conference started since last Monday until tomorrow. And it's organized by BeritaSatu Media Holding, working together with BNI, Malang City Region, PT Steel Pipe Industry, Spindo, and King Coil. And here, I'm Chatri Hiller. And here, Bapak Aditya Laksmana Yuda, also here together with me. How are you, sir? I'm very well, thank you. Now, this is vulnerable times after we had lunch. Yes, indeed. And to begin our session, we will hear remarks conveyed by Bapak Budi Karya Sumadi, Minister of Transport. The floor is yours. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Om Swastiastu. The Honorable, I see here we have a lot of friends of mine. We have Pak Primus Dorimulu from BeritaSatu. We have also Pak Irfan, Managing Director from Garuda Indonesia. And also Pak Kamaludin, Managing Director of Jaklingko. Ibu Ira, Pak Yuliandra. Let us give praise to Almighty God that we are here today in good health to attend this important forum, Economic Outlook Year 2022, regarding transportation sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the current situation is not easy, and next year we pray that the economy will recover. And Indonesia is one of the few countries that could manage the COVID-19 pandemic well. We've seen several development already in progress, even though the development growth is not 5% yet. And here, a lot of prediction stated that we will have 5.5% development growth next year. Now here, we are certain that next year we could accelerate the national development. We could expand on many other things. And our plan for next year, we will prioritize and strengthen our infrastructure to better support the economy. Our president numerous times emphasized that infrastructure and health become the primary sectors. And we are reminded that we must stay focused to bring about investment and accelerate export. Therefore, it is imperative for us to concentrate on several national projects. And those projects have multiplier effect. And I'm certain that we could achieve this vision. So Ladies and gentlemen, it is without a doubt that we must increase our global competitiveness. And here, my ministry, the Ministry of Transport, have made plans until year 2024. And here we have stipulated the target per semester, per quarter. We want to develop better mass transportation system. We want to add more train lines. And we also want to expand on our ports and other modes of transportation. Some of them already started this year. And next year, the president, in its financial memorandum, stated that we must maintain logistical efficiency, amongst others, including increase our productivity at all levels in order to achieve an increase of development index by increasing our performance so that we could achieve zero accident in terms of transportation. Now, in line with the government's plan, there are several infrastructure programs that we have developed based on our priorities. We will continue in focusing several infrastructure progress, make sure that it is completed, and also to manage other strategic products so that equal development could happen, especially in eastern part of Indonesia, and at the same time manage the COVID-19 infection rate, and also make sure that we have sustainable transportation system by ensuring the safety and comfort of transportation. So we put that in our plan for next year. And here we work together with various stakeholders, including the private sector. Now, the Minister of Transportation welcomed the private sector. And here we established creative financing aimed to decrease financing backlog. And second, to give opportunities for the private sector to manage and own airports, seaports, terminals. And we already opened our doors to this. I've contacted the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and other associations to work together with the government. And in order to do this, we must achieve economic feasibility through KSP collaboration. If we are working with state-owned enterprises and with the private sector, we use KPBU scheme. Now, we already work together on 5 airports using ASPI scheme in Bengkulu, Papua, Central Kalimantan, and others. And also in Gorontalo and Labuan Bajo. Those are few examples where we work together with private sectors. And next year, we hope that we could engage in many more projects. Here, many projects would be completed, like in Komodo Island and others, such as train from Makassar to Parepare. We could start operating them to receive cargo and logistical items. And we are also discussing with investors on how to rejuvenate Halim Perdana Kusuma Airport and also in other regions. We are testing several of our facilities in Bekasi and other acceleration program. And we do this through creative financing, through KSP and KPBU. Lastly, we realize that we are still in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. So safety is priority. And for example, here, I know that Garuda upholds strict health protocol, and I give my utmost appreciation to what they're doing. And hopefully we could follow same practices like Garuda and what is applied also in our train railway station. I guess that is all. Hopefully this event could provide the utmost benefit to all of you and intensify our synergy so that the transportation sector could contribute significantly towards the national development program. And all of that is possible if we could attract more investors and increase our export. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Thank you to Bapak Budi Karya Sumadi, Minister of Transportation, with the theme to accelerate national transportation development. Budi, if I may, I would like to convey a question regarding your keynote speech. First, regarding creative financing. Now here, the Ministry of Transportation opened its doors to private sector to collaborate. And we know that basic infrastructures are being handled by the government agencies. And we realize some of them because if we leave it to the private sector, sometimes the calculation and the funding doesn't reach a suitable target. Now, I would like to know more. How can the private sector assist next year? Because you have backlog on certain project, then how can the private sector could be enticed to go into the sector and reduce the backlog? Well, if we have PDF, it would be good so that we have a good plan. We know each of our capabilities, and the private sector could assist us with several projects. And here, we invite the private sector to sit down together so that they could see in which region they would like to invest, whether in Ambon, in Palembang, or Proving Ground, in Bekasi, or other region, so that they know about the format of the project and they could review further. And here, we work together with the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprises, where we also welcome the private sector to contribute, so that together we could form an investment group. And we're doing this in Palembang and in Ambon. For example, there are several European investors and Chinese investors as well. The same in Palembang. However, for now, we realize that the private sector wants high return from their investment. So that's why we use a blended scheme, like in Ambon. We mix the container, multi-purpose, and maritime affairs. We combine them all. Whereas in Palembang, multi-terminal functions and the distribution of oil and gas and other relevant sectors, we combine so that the ERR, or the return factor, could be beneficial and desirable for the private sector. And some of the projects we started with Pelindo and Angkasa Pura, and then afterwards we started open the opportunity for private sector. So after we started this, then we could invite the private sector, whether nationally or overseas investors. Now, this is a good breakthrough initiated by the Minister of Finance. So here the ministry underwrite those projects to investors, and they also market the income that they generate. The president mentioned that we receive a lot of grants from the Emirates state. And if we continue this with WSF scheme, then rest assured those projects already gone through due diligence process. And before I was put in this position, I was also put in the Ministry of Finance. So I know a lot of things regarding the legal aspects of the financing scheme. And here we have also a separate agency that becomes like the mediator. And with SWF, this agency, I have high hopes that we could intensify our conversation so that the creative financing could continue even further. And we could manage many more projects using SWF, like we are doing in Gorontalo, in 5 airports, in Ambon and in Labuan Bajo. So this scheme is already familiar to us. And here, I also would like to ask assistance from the media to also put the word out so that many people know about this. And here, is it direct funding possible? Yes. I've met with an association. Why do you always give the project to Pelindo? And I said, no, not always Pelindo. If you want to go into Bau-Bau region, Port Timika, or other ports all across Indonesia, then feel free to express your interest. If you have an association and you could manage several ports, that's quite all right. Because if we manage that, then we could utilize our resources. And we realize the government cannot tackle them all. So here, we could disperse and utilize our resources and limited people to do other work. Oh yes, last question. Do you have a target, the composition from private sector and the national or the government sector, the percentage of this financing scheme? So we would like to know the composition. Well, from my ministry, we have around 30 trillion rupiah. And if we put Batimban region and others. So meaning next year, 60 to 75% financing could originate from the private sector. Yes. And hopefully when BeritaSatu could spread the word, then hopefully many more will join us in developing nationwide. Wonderful. So this regarding our efforts to accelerate the national development. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Minister of Transportation, Pak Budi Karya. But first, we would humbly ask to have a brief photo session. I will give the cue. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Yeah, I also would like to remind the participants that we have door prizes. We want to give away one Xiaomi handphone by scanning the QR code. Now, this QR code will appear on the screen, but we cannot tell you when, so you have to stay tuned. And now we would like to go to our panel discussion with the theme of Policy Direction for National Transportation Development. And now I invite Pak Adit to take over as the moderator. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now we've come to the panel discussion. After we heard the remarks conveyed by Bapak Budi Karya Sumadi, Minister of Transportation, regarding the national transportation development. And this afternoon, we have with us Managing Director of Garuda, Bapak Irfan Setiaputra. Good day. Welcome, sir. And then we also have Managing Director of ASDP Indonesia, Bapak Yusuf. Good to see you, sir. And then third panelist, Managing Director of Jaklingko Indonesia, Bapak Kamaluddin. Welcome, sir. So, in line with our theme, to accelerate the national transportation development. Now, we will hear from our three panelists who are expert in their field, and they are responsible for operating various national transportation mode. I would like to begin with Pak Irfan Setiaputra from Garuda. So here, when we talk about transport, it deals with the mobility of the public. And we see that last year, the transportation has decreased. It's not yet as lively as before the pandemic started. Now here, we're starting to see signs that it will revive. More people are starting to use modes of transportation again. And the data from BPS showed there is an increase in the number of people using airline. Now, from Garuda point of view, what are your insights regarding the future of transportation next year? Yes, thank you. I have no presentation material. So I would like the audience to focus on myself rather than the presentation material. But when we talk about the economic outlook for next year in terms of transportation sector, I would like to identify the role of transportation, especially in the airline industry. We have data and also how the airline or airline mode transportation contribute towards the national GDP. But here, we need to focus on economy recovery. And when we specifically discuss about aviation, first is about the mobilization of the people. Now, as you mentioned, the DNA of our industry is the people, the mobility of the people. And here, we have a noble job of connecting people from one region to another. And in my view, with the current condition, Garuda is to focus on the mobility of people. And here, Indonesia is quite unique in its mobility compared to other countries. Other countries have a business-centered aviation, and they're also leisure. And here in Indonesia, we have the third aspect, which is social purposes, social affairs. You could go to different region by plane if next of kin is having marriage or other celebration. So these are the examples of social purposes. Whereas in Indonesia, economic travel, we have inbound and outbound. And here, we want that we could increase inbound, and as mentioned by the Minister of Tourism, we want to have quality tourists in Indonesia. So when we connect cities, region, provinces, now, when we talk about cities in Java, our contribution is quite small. Why? Because there are many good quality toll roads. And we see how goods could be transported easily within Java Island. The same with export, import. We need to decide which area that we want to concentrate. And then, when we talk about the people's mobility, I would like to quote a research. We have a research on passengers' confidence track towards aviation. Now, last September, only 47% confident, but this year the confidence is higher. And we also have an internal survey, and 86% said that they would like to fly in less than 3 months. So here we see that there is an increase of potential passengers that are about to use various planes. And here, we don't want to repeat the same mistake like before. Now, last year, 50% of the passenger mostly are domestic. And everyone in Garuda, including myself, we were optimistic. Even though at that time we didn't anticipate the pandemic. So here we need to be careful and active at the same time. So we're hoping in December there will be no spike. Even if there were going to be spike, a light spike. We know we face several challenges, restrictions in Indonesia and also overseas, but I believe that we could overcome this and we remain optimistic. And in our business plan, we use credible evidence survey, and we are certain that there will be an increase of mobility. And we are quite confident that the projection for domestic market will increase with one condition. If in December, the spike is not too high. And then in terms of cargo transport, we want to focus more on export. We will open direct flight to certain countries. Now, I know that it's not that routine, only once a week from Makassar to Hong Kong and from Manado to Narita to send commodities, to transport commodities originated from those regions. So we want to reduce the long transport. And usually in the past, we use Jakarta to send this. For example, like fresh tuna, it would be more valuable if we send it straight from Makassar or Manado, rather than if we send it from Jakarta. Now, here, we also hoping that we could achieve herd immunity. And in order to do this, we need to work together as an ecosystem. We uphold strict health protocol. And for us in Garuda, all of us in Garuda need to be healthy, even though we are still in the restructuring process. And we are focusing on two sides, cargo for export purposes. And second, we focus for domestic mobility. And we have discount excess baggage. Now, for example, if you send cargo to domestic, it's fixed. But if you carry yourself as part of the passenger and you weight it and it is exceeding, then you will be charged for excess baggage. Now, usually the cost is 9 to 10 times more expensive than the cargo. So for this excess baggage, we give discount almost 80% in all of our flight. Now, by doing this, we're hoping that people who want to travel, whether for business and leisure purposes, that they're already vaccinated twice, already experience antigen, and when they return home, please bring a lot of souvenirs because it will help Garuda, of course, but we don't get a big portion for that, but we want to assist SME. And we often attend meetings, workshop, where they're hoping that their product could be assisted by Garuda. And I think if we travel all around Jakarta, and if you, for example, you go to Jogja and then you will go back home, you will bring a lot of souvenirs. And if we think about excess baggage, it will cost a lot, but now it's not. Now, here, if you bring a lot of souvenir, then it will also create a good image for you in your housing complex. Now, this is one of the added value. That is all. Oh, thank you so much for that, Pak Irfan. The contribution from the aviation or your airline. And you know that we have better quality land transportation, in Java Island, so your airline could focus on other region. And you also mentioned that you also support the government policy and regulation that approaching this holiday season, you still uphold health protocol and hoping that there won't be a spike. And even though there would be a spike, it would be a light spike during this holiday season. And then third, Garuda focus on two things: cargo, direct flight to overseas, and what is interesting regarding excess baggage discount. And the people should know about this. And one of the major purpose is so that the tourists or whatever they go for business or leisure, when they return home, they don't have to worry about excess baggage. Now, I would like to know more regarding export, like Manado directly go to Narita and Makassar go to Hong Kong. Do you plan to add more direct flight to bring cargo? Yes, well, we are still reviewing other potential destination. For example, from Surabaya to Incheon, Korea. And once from Padang to Guangzhou, China, for cargo purposes. And when we tested this, we found several interesting things. And one time we found 30 tons of mangosteen from Jakarta to China. And I talked about this to certain district. And in district, they have 300,000 tons of pineapple. Now here, Garuda should play a role as not only the transporter, but also the supporter of economic transaction. And here, even though we realize we decreased the number of flights, and many people ask me, why people still go to Amsterdam or go to Sydney? And even though they see the passenger only 50%, what people don't know, we bring 30 tons of cargo and also 30 tons incoming goods to Indonesia. So we play our role as hub. And we also talk to a lot of shippers where we could fly the cargo to countries where we don't have a visible or prominent existence, like to the US. And we also could collaborate with other airlines that already have a fixed or firm position there. So Indonesian business people don't have to be worried about bringing their cargo to their destination countries any longer. All right, thank you so much, Pak Irfan. That is a concrete contribution from Garuda. And here, you're doing your part to increase the economic recovery. And you mentioned for one region, you could help transport 100,000 tons of pineapple to overseas. So we could bring our excellent products overseas. And I was surprised when you mentioned that in airplanes, you carry a lot of cargo, even though maybe visibly the number of passengers is not that many. So this helps a lot to assist the SME. So thank you so much for your presentation, Pa, and hopefully you could remain with us until Q&A session. And now we would like to go with our second panelist, Bapak Yusuf Hadi, Commercial Director of ASDP Indonesia. Pak Yusuf, you have similar question. What would be the prospect of our sea transportation next year? And I'm sure that ASDP have a decrease on the number of passengers since the COVID-19 pandemic started. But I assume you also experience an increase lately, and with the leniency from the government. So what's your take on this, Pak Yusuf? How ASDP Indonesia Ferry see the prospect of sea transportation for next year, and link it with the vision of our president to enable the maritime access. And here you play an important role here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Adit. I hope that everyone is doing well. I would like to greet Pak Irfan, CEO of Garuda, Mr. Kamaluddin, and also the participants of the webinar. For the maritime transportation development in 2022, we have to underline our tagline that we have to be positive that the economy will recover. At the moment, in ASDP, we are out of the 289 routes that we serve by a fleet of 212 ships, and we also have maritime tall ships, and we also operate ports. So we represent part of the maritime industry, and we are optimistic that in 2020, well, of course, there was a decline in 2020 compared to 2019, but in 2021, there is an increase of 11% of passengers for our ferry services. We also carried motorbikes, cars, and logistics in our ferry ships, and the increase in the transportation of all these indicates a growth in mobility. There is an increase in 6% of motorbikes being transported by the ferries and 8% of cars carried by ferries. And we project that in 2022, we will have a 14% growth in 2022 and 6.3% more motorbikes. So I think we would have a double-digit growth for vehicle transportation in 2022. For logistic transportation for trucks, we project growth of 16%. And this indicates that in 2022, in the maritime industry, there will be a significant growth. So what we have to do is to make sure that this growth is sustainable by ensuring that maritime transportation provides a support for all other sectors. We experience a drop in 44% of passengers and also a drop in vehicles, but we also experience a 44% increase in logistic or truck transportation. And this indicates that they support the mobilization of goods, the transportation of goods, indicating that there is an ongoing economic activity, an ongoing economic transaction. And most of this is transported through the marine transportation. In 2022, the the maritime transportation will be a very strategic sector that ensures transportation, not only passengers, but mostly logistics. We are also optimistic that we have done a lot of improvement, upgrading throughout 2020 and 2021. We have upgraded our ports to make sure that our passengers can do cashless transactions in our ports, and digitized our processing to improve the comfort of our passengers. And we also impose health protocols in our ports. We have a product that we have also provided an executive ferry service for those who do not wish to travel using the regular ferry service. And this accommodates about 65% shift from the regular ferry service. So service guarantee and providing certainty for the passengers will assure them that they are safe to travel using the ferries, the executive ferry service. By imposing health protocols, we not only meet the regulations, but we also ensures the passengers that it is safe and to travel with us using this ferry service. I recently went to Mandalika using a Garuda flight, and it seems that the public needs to be reassured that transportation operators will abide by the health protocols in all their operations. And this will win the public trust, and it will, this is a very important component. For logistics, we try to create a scheme using corporation scheme. So this is a product that is enjoying a growth of over 200%. So people who bought okay, so for example, trucking companies can schedule their travels for the next week or for the next month, and then we provide them with the service. We provide them with the we provide a service whereby we go to their office and accommodate their plans and schedules. So, service innovation is very important to address the situation that we experience, the challenges that we experience. We have to have new business models to address the challenges and the problems that we found. In terms of servicing the tourism, we are operating ports in Labuan Bajo, and we notice an increase in its hotel occupancy rates. So it is important for us to ensure the public that the product that we offer is quality product, and it is safe, and it accommodates not only business but also economic and tourist activities. We cannot wait for the business to come to us. We need to approach them. We need to make the first move. So trucking companies that buy tickets in bulk should be ensured that their goods are arrive in good shape. So this is very important, convincing the public of the quality of our products. I think as opposed to other companies that had financial problems during the pandemic, we not only reach our goal or our margin goal, but we also make 112% over our target. This is our profit margin, over our profit margin. We forecast that we were going to have to endure loss, but it turned out that we are making more profit this year. So that's very interesting. In 2021 compared to 2022 and 2020, we had exceeded our work plan target. So we exceeded it by 330%. So other companies might undergo problems, but we make profit instead by focusing not only on transporting passenger, but also on transporting goods. And the backbone that supports us throughout this pandemic is the logistics transportation. So we believe that in 2022, with herd immunity, with the increasing number of vaccinated population, and through integration of system using our integrated ticketing system, we would be able to see that we noticed that there is very few people, unvaccinated people, who pass through our ports in our ports, in our ferry ports, and this shows that this enables us to have an increase in not only the passenger but also vehicle and logistic passenger. And with these growth potentials, let's work together. Let's prepare together. Let's prepare for better economy with more activity among the people. That's it from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Yusuf Hadi. I think we can see clearly now how the maritime transportation business has been faring during the pandemic. Pak Yusuf has spoken about the positive performance of marine transportation through the ferry service of PT ASDP Ferry. They have enjoyed double-digit growth in passenger and vehicle transport. And so we understand that while the lockdown, the quarantines had limited people's mobility, the transportation of logistics had been the backbone of not only the aviation industry, but the marine transportation industry as well. And this indicates, as Pak Yusuf said, that the growth of logistics industry is an indication of ongoing economic activity, ongoing economic transaction. There are a lot of transactions that continue to take place, and this is facilitated by the transportation or logistics sector. And I would like to ask Mr. Yusuf, with all those positive indicators and the raise in profit that is enjoyed by PT ASDP Ferry, do you think there will be a refocusing for ASDP in maximizing or maybe there will be some accelerated development, learning from the experience in the pandemic? The SDP have plans for expansion, and we will accelerate it in the 2022. The first plan is to, because we see a great prospect, a promising prospect for this ferry service, we will engage, we will acquire a private ferry service with 52 fleet, and this will be deployed in, because most of our fleet is engaged in ferry service. So we need to ensure the quality of our service. We need to ensure the quality of our services, our products, and this is done by adding to our fleet to improve that guarantee, to guarantee our services. We are also preparing a big concept involving the government and our partners to create a location, tourist destination in Bakauheni. Bakauheni is our port in South Lampung, the gateway into Sumatra, and we want the people to. We will develop 200 hectares of area into a tourist destination area. There's the Krakatau Museum and Bakauheni City, so that there will be a magnet for tourists, and this will increase the ferry traffic from Java to Lampung. In Q2 and Q3 of next year, we will list our company. We will go public either in Q2 or Q3. So Q3, at least in Q3. So how much fund are you looking to get from the public? Initially, we're trying to get about 3 to 4 trillion, because we're still looking at the pandemic situation. So we are only selling about 3 to 4 trillion because I think we have enough equity for business expansion. So do you have any plans on how to use the fund that you get from going public? So for two purposes, for capex and for expansion, because if we expand, then it means our business is growing. But if we only put it into investment, then we're still only on consolidation stage. So thank you. So with two expansion plan to optimize your operations post acquisition of 52 fleet and to develop the tourism destination or a special economy in South Lampung, it is we expect to see more multiplier effect in the area where ISDP operates. So thank you so much for your exposition and good luck with your IPO. This shows that ASDP can be considered one of the most promising player in the transportation business. We cannot underestimate the maritime transportation industry because they continue to contribute through various integrated innovation and its performance continues to be positive as well, and they continue to contribute to the economy in general. So thank you so much, Mr. Yusuf. We'll get back to you on the Q&A session. Ladies and gentlemen of the participants, let's move on to our next speaker, CEO of PT Jaklingko Indonesia, Mr. Muhammad Kamaluddin. Jaklingko is different beast altogether. I think Pak Kamaluddin will elaborate more, but this is a company that is it isn't a direct operator, but it's a company that provides an integrated payment system for public transport in the Greater Jakarta area. But Jaklingko is important because one of the bigger issue of all of us who live in the Greater Jakarta Indonesia, Greater Jakarta area, is the traffic. We always experience we are experiencing the kind of gridlock that we used to see before the pandemic. So maybe Jaklingko can play a role that contributes to reducing this gridlock. And this reminds me of a country that is considered one of the success story in terms of reducing traffic, Colombia, where they can reduce traffic by introducing public transit. The mayor of Bogota said that the sign of the success of a nation is not how many cars the people have, but how many of the population use public transport. So, Pak Kamaluddin, I hope that you can explain to us what Jaklingko is, why it is necessary for it to exist, why it is necessary to integrate the payment of public transit, and what are the plans that Jaklingko had prepared going forward so that the people in Greater Jakarta area can enjoy better services in public transport, and they will be more willing to take the public transport, and then creates better connectivity among the urban satellites cities. So thank you, Mr. Aditya. I've followed these discussions from the beginning. We've talked about aviation, we've talked about marine transportation, and now we're going to talk about urban transportation. The challenge, as Pak Aditya said earlier, is in the growth of economic activities in the urban areas after we lift the restriction. We are seeing again the kind of gridlock that we saw earlier because people are still using a lot of private owned vehicles. So this is where Jaklingko plays a part. I'm going to share my presentation here, but before I explain what Jaklingko is, I'm going to talk about its context first. As Pak Aditya said, the challenge comes from the traffic that we experience in the Greater Jakarta area. We have seen a lot of upgrades in Jakarta in terms of public transport facilities. Jakarta used to be the fourth most the fourth city with the heaviest traffic in the world, and In 2020, it became the 31st most city with the heaviest traffic. But now that the pandemic is getting under control, then we have come to the situation where the traffic is getting worse again. So to get people to use public transport, we need to help them getting from their destination, from their home to their office. So from point to point, from end to end, from house to the shopping mall, and it has to be on time. Transportation has to be on time. And they have to know that they are going to get there in the time frame that they expected, and it has to be safe, and it has to be convenient. So, of course, in terms of network, public transport, there has to be hubs between transport modalities. Bogota is a very sophisticated city where the public transport facilities are integrated. So everything is scheduled. So ideally, once a train is scheduled to arrive at the station, ideally there should be a bus there waiting to get the passengers to their respective office. So the Jaklingko in this case is serving as the hub for processing ticketing in Greater Jakarta area, and we issued a standard card and application standard that can be used in all the transportation modes in the Greater Jakarta area. And in our pandemic recovery, apart from recovering from the pandemic, we are also using this initiative to increase the use and fleet of public transport in terms of reaching the green or ecological or emission goals. So we have a long-term goal for until 2029, which is the goal of reducing carbon emission in the urban areas. We were established out of 4 main transportation companies in the Greater Jakarta area. There is Multi Jakarta, MRT Jakarta, and then the railway company KAI, and then Jakpro and Transjakarta. So we have the train, the commuter train, the light rail, the MRT, and bus, and even micro transport, the minibuses that connects the passengers to Transjakarta. And in terms of creative financing, we are engaging in the same efforts. We work with strategic partners. The biggest investment that for our company, we have two investors from French that provides a platform for transportation ticketing in various cities in various countries. Our business models takes a certain percentage from every ticket prices for our operation. Our benchmark is for level 4 of integration. This is an ideal goal because in other cities have reached various levels of integration. Some have only integrated their information, some have integrated their ticketing. We are trying to integrate the pricing, the ticket prices. And this will hopefully offer a solution for the passengers. And this is going to be done through several stages, several phases. The first one is the launching of the card and the application. And the trial will be conducted until the end of the year, and so that in January this application can be used by the millions of transportation users in Greater Jakarta area. In March, we will implement the services in which, apart from the four modalities that I have shown earlier, we will involve other transport modalities, including online transportation, marine transportation, if possible, and also taxi operators, so that everything is integrated, so that we can really serve the passenger end to end. So we do this by expanding our partnerships. And lastly, in terms of ticketing, account-based ticketing is planned for September 22, but it might be launched sooner. We will launch special prices, be it daily prices or weekly prices or monthly prices with special discounts, for example, for veterans, for students, and the elderly. So this is our short-term target for 2022. And we are confident that in these three initial phases, we will be able to increase the number of public transport users by 8%. And capacity utilization will continue to increase to reach the level it was before the pandemic. So this is the launching of the first phase of Jaklingko Indonesia. This was launched by the Minister of Transportation, Minister of State-owned Company, and the Governor of Jakarta. We are a company that involves many stakeholders, including the ministries, and this application and card has been tried, has been piloted by thousands of people, so they can estimate their travel. They can use the application to estimate how long it will take to go from their home to their office. Next slide. This is our long-term roadmap. So apart from the integration that we are going to start in next year, our ultimate goal is to increase the public transport users in the urban areas, not only in the Greater Jakarta area, but also in our on our establishment. When we were established at the Ministry of Transportation, it is said that this is an initiative that is going to be developed in other cities, and the one in Jakarta is going to be showcased as a proof of concept before implementation in other cities. Palembang had also been in discussion with us to develop their own Jaklingko, and this promises quite a significant economic potentials from ticketing and from what do you mean by fiscal contribution? Is it contribution to the government or what? So we will have other profits apart from the increasing mobility. So with more mobility, economy will of course grow, and all players will contribute fiscally to the government due to the increased mobility. So it's not that Jaklingko is paying to a certain amount, a certain revenue to the government, but it's a multiplier effect from Jaklingko and the economy or the business players that enjoyed the benefit of Jaklingko. So it's some 6.8 trillion. So yeah, that's true. So We also have direct impact to the revenue. So 5 trillion from the ticketing profits. That's quite big for one city alone. And I think this is a very positive initiative. And based on our data from the integration, we can do analytics. We can indicate, we can identify which routes that should be developed, and we can identify which route that should be expanded, and then the number of fleet necessary to serve that, to service that route. And this will be used to draw the attention of infrastructure development investors, because we do have a real demand, and by investing in the railway, in the station, in the terminal, we can tap into that demand. So I think this is, in the long run, this is quite a promising initiative, and we invite the participants of this webinar, if you would like to take part in the trial of Jaklingko application, we have prepared the instruction in the next slide. Thousands have tried it. And if you would like to get involved in the testing, of course, you can just use the link. The database application is benchmarked from the model that are in various cities. And we use it as a model of database transportation development with a more integrated schedule and controlled, integrated and controlled schedule. This will help the passenger more in estimating their travel time. And during the pandemic, there will be a safety guarantee as well, because we can notice crowd points in certain points on the transportation routes. We can see where there is a lot of passengers gathering, so we can move it. So we can move them from on their apps to use other modalities that are less crowded, so that we can do this kind of monitoring in a more integrated fashion. If you don't mind, I have a video to show. So yeah, I think it's necessary that we watch this video to understand better what Jaklingko is. Can you hear the audio? So we can connect you everywhere. So that's amazing, Pak Kamaluddin. I think this is worth trying, especially when you get the threshold promotion. So Mr. Kamaluddin, so this collaboration with ride-hailing companies, has it started, or is it still planned for next year? So we are still exploring this avenue. This might come sooner than March. Hopefully in early 2022 we will launch this. And interestingly, this integration is a win-win solution for a collaboration, a synergy. So public transport operators who are our shareholders and are assigned by the Jakarta government and the Ministry of Transportation. But the private sector is also interested in partnering with us, because with this integration, everyone will get more passengers, and this translates to greater or more revenues. So let's say what our ride-hailing applications say about this? The Grab and Gojek, are they interested? Okay, maybe the respective brands will explain it more once everything is prepared. Okay, one more question before we go on with the Q&A session. This is quite an extraordinary integration, and this will depend, of course, on the performance of each transport modalities. As resident of Greater Jakarta area, the comfort and performance of public transport can change the passengers' habit in deciding not to use or to use certain public transport modalities. So how do you engage the public transport operators, the MRT, Transjakarta, the railway service, and the microbus transports that is part of the Jaklingko network? So how do you get them to maintain their performance and customer satisfaction? Let me just explain the context. Jaklingko is a complete solution package, and we are assigned by the government from the central and regional government, and the brand is designed by the governor of Jakarta, Anies Baswedan, using the West Nusa Tenggara water irrigation system. So we are an interconnected system and makes a whole network that requires certain support from each of the stakeholders, because each modalities is owned by the government. The railway system is owned by a state-owned company, for example, and then MRT is owned by the government of Jakarta. So they have set a minimum standard from the Transportation Office and the Ministry of Transportation, and is governed by the roadmap of general standard of service. So this is the whole package for the users. So we not only integrate the data, we also have to improve, for example, the station integration. railway station integration. So we have upgraded 4 stations in 2021. For example, the Tebet station that was relaunched in September of this year. We improved the integration between the train station and the Transjakarta bus stop, so that it's better connected, so that those bus passengers who got off in Tebet can use the train easily, and vice versa. There is also standard operating procedures to ensure better integration, so that we get better on-time performance. We have minimum service standards to make sure that punctuality is maintained by each transport operators. So Jaklingko's contribution in this case is to give the data because we can see where most users are traveling from, and what modalities can be deployed, and what are the trends. And these are the data that we can show to the Transportation Ministry and transportation offices to guide them in their decision making. So thank you, Pak Kamaluddin, the panelists. So now we are going to have question and answer from the participants. Let's begin with Pak Irfan. Pak Irfan, the question is, in 2022, we are preparing for the Hajj pilgrimage season again. So what have Garuda been preparing for this? To again fly the Hajj routes in 2022, because in 2030, the Saudi government had set a target for 30 million Umroh pilgrims every year. So how is Garuda going to anticipate that?
Yes, thank you for the question. So here for the pilgrimage, it's one of the profitable business for Garuda. And this year, we make careful plan, and I don't know whether the public is aware of this, but for the Umroh pilgrimage travel cost varies. And the Ministry of State Enterprise plan to build some sort of housing complex in Mecca, so that the pilgrimage don't have to search for hotels and other accommodation once they're in Mecca. And we are still discussing this. We discussed this with with a wide range of stakeholders. And we have to take into account to various complexity. And we as transporter, we have to make sure that the pilgrimage could arrive safely. And I myself transit to Dubai before I work in Garuda, and I met several pilgrimage from Indonesia, and they asked me, at that time I was still a young age, and when I was very young at that time, where is Kaaba? They asked me. So without our knowing, most of the pilgrims are first timer. They've never been to Mecca. And it feels like inappropriate if we ask the pilgrims to stop over at so many different places. So it would be appropriate if we take them directly to Mecca. It's not about business competition, no. So And here I also need support from the pilgrims and other travel agents. We have to take them directly to Mecca. It doesn't have to transit to many places. And can you imagine a pilgrim have to leave their homes at 3 a.m. and then this is from Bandung, and they have to travel to Jakarta, to Cengkareng Airport. And at that time, they go by Garuda to Jeddah. And then they have to wait again. And once it is completed, then they have to have breakfast. And then most of the pilgrims are elderly people. But we want to be a fair airline. We don't want all of our pilgrims to depart from Jakarta only, because we have capable airports in Makassar, in Sumatra, Lombok, and other regions. Also from Bandung and other West Java. We don't want all of them to depart from Jakarta, and then once they arrive at Jakarta airport, they ask, where is Mecca? And here, the real cost for pilgrim borne by the government is almost twice as much. So why twice as much? Garuda is expensive, and that's what they say. And then I checked that the luggage is the responsibility of Garuda. And here it gives an opportunity for certain staff to engage in illegal manner. And then once they arrive, we also have to think about their transport. And here, sad to say that Garuda is responsible for things that we are not skillful at. So we must concentrate on one thing, is to transport them in a flight. And I remember one time, once we send them to Mecca, then our flight go back to Indonesia is empty. So it would be good if they allow us to bring cargo, so that the plane will not depart empty from Mecca. And then second, I think we don't have to let the pilgrims to stop over at so many transit. It's because it's unnecessary. Why they have to stay longer than they have to? They come there for prayer, for religious purposes, and let us help them do just that. So apology if I offend certain people. So if possible, just take them straight there, let them concentrate on their religious purposes and bring them home. But we're still discussing this with them. That is all I can say. Yep. Thank you, Pak Irfan. So first, for the pilgrim, if possible, go direct so that there are no more questions. And the pilgrims can depart from various destinations in Indonesia. They don't have to go straight from Jakarta. Right. Thank you so much, Pak Irfan. And now, another question from participant to Pak Yusuf Hadi. Question: how big is the contribution from maritime transport towards the total national transport? And we know that so far it is dominated by land transportation. And do you think the maritime transport could reduce the logistical costs? Let's say 50%. So what do you think about this prospect, and what ASDP plan to do about it? Yes. Thank you for the question. So what is actually the volume of maritime transportation compared to the overall transportation? So we are preparing the presentation For ASDP, we have roughly 25% from the total national transport. But this 25% is enormous, where we distribute goods and also transport people. And if we open Patimban seaport, we could deliver a lot of cargo. Previously from Java to Sumatra, usually they go by land. But because now Patimban and Belawan are available, then we could send ships there and we could deliver 400 to 600 units vessel there, cars. So here, if previously we have to do or to choose other modes of transportation, but now we have one specific mode that could substitute container or freight. We call it long distance ferry. So here, if you remember, if we're departing from Surabaya, we go to Lombok, we have to go to Ketapang first or Banyuwangi, and then we have to cross over and arrive in Lombok. If we want to go to Sumbawa, we have to go by vessel again. But now for long distance ferry, big boat or big vessel, bigger than the regular ferry, could go straight from Surabaya to Lombok, or straight to Labuan Bajo or to Flores, or straight to Ende. And apart from Surabaya to Lombok, we also have from East Java to Lombok. And we open Patimbang in Subang to Pontianak, and Patimbang to Banjarmasin, and then Patimbang to other region. So here, we could cover many regions. And early November, we also open a new route from Patimban to Makassar. And most of the passenger here are in a form of trucks, cargo. So previously they used land, but if they want to go by sea, they could choose various options, long distance ferry, cargo, or container. So they have more choices to choose from. Now, this truly helps and also assist our colleagues from the Ministry of Public Works. They don't have to maintain the road as often as they used to, because if there are so many trucks passes by, then it will ruin the structure, damage the structure of the roads. Now, here, if we use by land, it's 30 kilometers per hour. Because if it's heavy, if they go faster than that, then the tire could explode. And here, that's why the sea transportation helps a lot. So here we are doing a favor for other modes of transportation, for land and air. So if some of them transfer or shift to water transportation or sea transportation, and it's good, then we could assist with the business process and with other aspects. And when we work together and enhance the services that we're doing, including using the digital transformation, and it would increase the services significantly, and we could also achieve efficiency. And that is all from my side. Thank you. I would like to invite colleagues from the logistic area. You could use this long distance ferry. You could use that from various points all across Indonesia. And last question to Pak Kamaludin from Alexander Hilarius Fuad. Does Jaklingko have plans to expand Jaklingko so that it could become profit center? And can you also operate in other region, other island and other province? So the name no longer Jaklingko. Yes, well, actually, this is one of our vision, so that we could operate in various province and major cities. And we could use other names, definitely. And in essence, the platform that we are using now, it's quite flexible. But of course, we could adjust it to our needs. And here, we also need to think about the network, the connectivity. Now, we could definitely operate in different regions. And if we could assist all travelers, of course, that would be our dream. And whether they are traveling to different region on holiday or on business, we'd be happy to assist them. And they could also use the same application. Now, this could definitely help users if they're residing in Jakarta and they want to spend a holiday in Palembang. Then they could use similar application and pay the transport costs using the same app, so that they don't have to download different apps. This would be efficient. And we also ask an agreement with the Ministry of Transport between the governor of Jakarta, the Ministry of State-Owned Enterprise. We will use this application as the national application. And we are preparing the system to be expanded to other regions. That is all. Okay, thank you for the answers. And we have conveyed several questions from the participants. And now I leave to the moderator. Yes, I'm interested with what you mentioned from Jaklingko, Pak Kamaludin, from Jakarta to Palembang, you could use same application. So I imagine that this application should also encourage and revive tourism sector. So if tourists confuse what sort of mode of transportation should they use, with this application, it would be the perfect solution to assist them. They could go to various tourism destination, have city tour without having to worry about the hustle that they have to do. So you're aiming to go to this sector as well, right? So without, yes, correct. So that's the purpose. One of them is to assist the tourist with their travel arrangement, and not only to help them to commute or in terms of mobility, but also to assist them so that they know several centers or tourist destination, whether it is culinary points or other tourist destinations. So we could inform that as well. So for instance, if you're in Jakarta, we could direct you to Taman Mini, Indonesia Indah, or to Ancol, or to the nearest culinary destination. So you have options when you open the apps. Thank you. So unfortunately, we have time constraint and we have to end this. And I invite all panelists to convey the closing statements. And here, I'm trying to find the fine line that connects all of these panelists. There is one spirit of efficiency that connects us in the transportation sector. And you provide services to your users, to your customers, whether through platform or not. And Pak Irfan, you mentioned with the pilgrimage where the people go on Hajj. And here, Pak Yusuf, you mentioned about the long route and how the transportation or the application could help the travelers. And Pak Irfan, you mentioned about the application that could integrate different modes of transportation. And this could be applied in different major cities and regions. Now here, it would help to accelerate the economic growth and help with the mobility of the people. So with the spirit of efficiency, how do you see the transportation sector could play an important role more than ever? Start with Pak Irfan. Yes. Well, actually, this is beyond efficiency. So the way I see it, this is our effort from the industry and my part from the airline industry to give options to our customer. Now, before the pandemic, we're satisfied, we're happy, and we forgot that there are other areas that we should focus on. For example, cargo. And then we need to revive the economic growth in our ecosystem. So it's not merely focusing on as transporter, but also to help generate the economic growth overall in this sector. And we also need to be adaptive towards the needs of our customers. So this pandemic gives us a valuable lesson. Then we have to be closer to our customers, and we have to be very creative in doing business and also support the logistical distribution, in this case, the cargo. So, and again, we want to establish herd community, because if we accomplish this herd community, we could accomplish so much more. And we could concentrate on other things. But of course, focus on our core business as well. And this contributes to the revival of our economy. Yes, thank you, Pak Irfan. And now, Pak Yusuf. Yes, thank you, Pak Aditya. So you mentioned interesting thing about efficiency. Well, I have 3 keywords. First, regarding business model that could bring us to substitution, logistic, and also regarding the cost. Now, substitution. Apart from land transportation, we also have other modes like long distance, ferry, and other modes, other options. So here we don't have to rely solely on land transportation alone, because there are other costs related to it, like the maintenance of the road and also the vehicles. And here, the transportation, the cost that generated from the land transportation is 48 trillion. Now, I imagine if we could integrate all our modes of transportation, and for example, if we focus on cargo, then we could do that, focusing from the upstream to downstream, and it would good. For example, we depart from Jakarta to Sumatra, and once they could drop off the cargo, and they should not return to Jakarta with an empty vehicle, empty cargo. We could use that. And for example, in Medan, if they know that there are people in Medan who would like to move to different region, and we could connect them, see that they could use the transportation to distribute the cargo or whatever. Now, this is good, and it could create a more efficient business process. Now, hopefully that could describe the perspective how we could work together from different modes of transportation. Hopefully that suffice. Yes, and now Pak Muhammad Kamaluddin, for us, Jaklingko could definitely assist in the integration process. Because with this integration, we could project ourselves where we could apply more affordable prices for the public. We could provide discounts and other promotions to our customers on certain occasion. And here, we realize that each mode of transportation still apply their own rate. And this is, for me, it's not efficient anymore. So we want to become one of the solution where the transportation costs could be more affordable for the customers, and they have various options to choose from. And then the platform that we're building is quite efficient from the investment point of view. And we could use the current platform. We could use that for long term and also for other purposes. And in my opinion, it is also effective. We could ensure the connectivity with various modes of transportation. So the coverage of the public transportation is wider if we could integrate those different sectors, right? Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard a comprehensive presentation and explanation from our three panelists, Pak Irfan Setiaputra, Managing Director of Garuda Indonesia, Pak Yusuf Hadi, Commercial Director of ASDP Indonesia Ferry, and hopefully next year you will go IPO, and also Pak Kamaluddin, Managing Director of Jaklingko Indonesia. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your willingness to share with us your valuable knowledge, and thank you for sharing the optimism as mentioned by Pak Irfan, Pak Kamaluddin, and Pak Yusuf. And we remain optimistic regarding the transportation system that we have in Indonesia. Now, before we end, I would like to give the mic to Cari. Yes, thank you to all of our three panelists. Thank you for the comprehensive knowledge and revelation. And this will definitely develop our transportation system further. I would like to convey my utmost appreciation to our sponsors. We have Good Sight, Foreign Policy Community in Indonesia, and Cafe Meat Stop. I'm Chatri Miller signing off. I invite you to continue and stay with us for the third session. We have various speakers. We have Danif Danusat Putro from Pertamina. We have Pak Zulkifli, Managing Director of PLN, and also from the battery industry, and also from the Indonesia National Authority. Thank you for your kind attention.